Good morning, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us this morning on our Wednesday Wisdom Devotional. Hope you're doing well this morning, hoping that you are having a good morning, possibly getting ready for school and for work. And if you are doing either of those, thank you for taking some time and joining us this morning. The psalm that David is most well known for is Psalm 23. And if you're not familiar with its background, most believe that Psalm 23 was written either before or right after David's conflict and battle with Goliath. David writes these words in Psalm 23 and verse 4, that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Now here's David recognizing who God is, what God can do for him in his life, that as he is getting ready to go down into that battle with Goliath, or as he's coming out of that battle, he realizes either way, God is the one who's going to lead, God is the one who is going to provide. What's interesting is what David says after that. And this is in keeping with our theme for this month as well as next month as we talk about the role of the table in our life. Look at what David says about God as he comes out of this valley. You, speaking of God, prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil and my cup overflows. You ever wondered why God set the table up for David in that regard? A lot of us, our first thought in our mind is that God is celebrating the victory that he has brought into David's life, and that is true. And I think that the table also does a few other things for David, and it'll do the same for us. One is that when we start coming out of the valley, we start gearing up and we start trying to make up for the time that was lost. That we had in that valley, that as we walk through there, as our focus, as our energy was all about that valley, we had to put also many other things on hold. And the tendency of ours is that as soon as we come out of that valley, as soon as we recuperate, if you will, we don't take time to rest. We don't take time to get ourselves mentally and emotionally, and most importantly, spiritually ready for the next few days or weeks or months. The table here to me is a reminder to rest. That as you're coming out of that valley, as you're coming out of that shadow, as you're coming out of that storm, that struggle, that God prepares a table and says, I want you to slow down before you move on to the next thing. Before you move on to the next person, before you move on to the next place, I want you to take a moment and I want you to rest. Because that's what tables do. Tables force us to slow down. Tables force us to rest. But also at the table, we remember. The table, if it forces us to rest, at the same time the table forces us to remember. It forces us to remember who God is. We forget through, as we go through that valley, that even though God is the one who is guiding us, God is the one who's leading us, and ultimately God is the one who protects us and provides for us in terms of the victory, we can still forget him. We can still forget who he is. We can still forget his very nature. That may be why David says the Lord is my shepherd. He's the one who is here for me. He is the one who is here to provide all that is necessary for me. It's at the table that we remember overall who God is. And then we also take a moment to rest. Because we do live in a society that tells us to go. That as soon as you finish with one part, you move on to the next, and you move on to the next, and you never take the time to enjoy the fruit of your labor. You never take the time to recuperate from the struggle you've been in. And the table that God prepares is a table that provides rest, and it's a table that provides remembrance. Real quick, for those who are Christians, we have a table at the first day of every week. Table that we call communion, a table that we reference with the Lord's Supper. And it's there at that table that we remember our shepherd. We remember Christ. We remember his care for us, his love for us. We remember that he is Lord, that he is Christ. We remember that he is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And there at that table we remember that instead of us walking through the valley of the shadow of death, that he did it for us. That instead of us being the ones who are broken and bruised, he is the one who went and gave his body to be broken, gave his blood to be shed. And it's there at that table that God has prepared that we would remember that we would remember what the Lord has done for us, what Jesus has done for us on the cross, and then what the Lord did for us when he raised Jesus from the dead. My encouragement to you today is that as you are moving, as the Lord is leading you and guiding you, don't forget to take a moment to rest. Don't forget to take a moment to remember who God is, that he is your shepherd, that he is your leader, he is your guide. And then if the Lord wills, that we gather together on Sunday to not forget our good shepherd, the one who walked through the valley of the shadow of death himself instead of us, so that we could have freedom from sin, that if we would be willing to come to him in faith and obedience and baptism, we could have those sins washed away. And even in the presence of our enemies, Satan, temptation, sin, and so many others, we can have the position of victory, and in that position we can rest and we can remember. Thank you so very much for joining us this morning. Hope that you have a great day. If you found this devotional be beneficial to you, please share it with your friends, share it with your family. If you live in the Raleigh area, we would love to have you come join us at the Raleigh Church of Christ. We're located at 911 Behringer Drive here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Tonight we meet at 7 p.m. for our midweek Bible classes. We do have classes for all ages. If you're unable to join us, we would love to have you on Sunday morning if the opportunity presents itself. We have classes at 9:30, Sunday school at 9:30, and we have our morning worship at 10:30. Again, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Hope that you have a great day, and I hope that you have a blessed day. Bye-bye.